All right, so we're here with James, who is a client of mine. Well, how are you doing, James?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. Yeah.
Great. So we're here to debrief the work that we've done together about your dating life. And first of all, can you just maybe tell me tell us your age and where you're from?
Almost 52. I'm from the United Kingdom, so I live in London now. So I grew up in England. So yeah, I'm English.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And what do you do in life? If you could just very shortly tell us what you do so that people can visualize.
Uh, well, I have more than one job. I work in a day job in a customer service role, and I
Mhm.
also work as a personal trainer in a gym. So I help people to get fit and strong and stay healthy.
Great. And do you feel that you're a very busy person? Like you don't have a lot of free time? And I mean, I know the answer, but I'm gonna ask you anyway.
Yes, that's a good question. I'm a very busy guy. As I said, I have more than one job, so I work daytimes, evenings, and weekends. So that can make meeting people, dating, and everyday life very difficult.
Hmm.
So yeah, I have very limited time, so I have to make sure that anything that I do, I spend that time wisely because I don't have a great deal of free time.
Yeah, I remember the first time we talked, you told me that you were saying that you basically didn't have. I mean, I don't know how much hours you had per week that you could even use, but it was
Mm.
not much. It was maybe like 4 or 5 hours a week or something like that. I mean, correct me
Yeah,
if I'm
that
wrong.
sounds about right. Yeah, between doing dealing with the daily demands, the weekly chores and life administration. Yeah, I just had a few hours, 3 or 4 hours a week that I could put aside for, focusing on dating.
Right. And so can you maybe tell us just briefly or with more details as you want, like how was it before we met in terms of your dating life?
To be honest, it had been a long time since I'd used internet dating. It had been maybe 7, 8 years, and it seemed like a lot had changed in that time. The landscape of internet dating had evolved into something different, and it
Right.
became much more widespread use and much more common in everyday use for people. But also, because of my age, I think I'm one of the first generation that had to primarily communicate via text message, and that can make things very difficult because communication by text message often, is obviously without voice tone, uh,
Hmm.
intonation. Most of your body language obviously is all part of communication that's missing in a text message, which can be misinterpreted. So that can make things more difficult and problematic as well if you don't know how to best kind of deal with sending text messages, how to phrase your message in the right way, so it
Hmm.
can't be misunderstood. So that was another issue.
And you were, I mean, how long have you been single before we met?
I think it was around 18 months at that time. I'd just gotten out of a long-term relationship.
Hmm.
And honestly, I think I'd been dating or attempting to have dates maybe 5 or 6 months before we interacted and got in contact with one another. And yeah, I'd found the landscape very difficult to navigate. And honestly, I probably had about one date every 5 weeks, and it wasn't very successful at all.
Yeah.
I found it very difficult to meet the right kind of people,
Right.
where you could form a connection with the right woman that had similar things in common. And I really didn't know what I was doing. I feel like I was stumbling around in the dark and trying to kind of hope that I might get lucky to meet someone.
So would you say, I mean, what was the hardest part of this? Meeting people or the dates themselves or the texting? Because you mentioned texting also.
The texting was part of it, and I think that's definitely um, the beginning of any interaction. So it's so
Yeah.
important that I'd underestimated the importance of that. But also just having the right kind of profile and a dating profile where people are going to match with you, take an interest, and where you can actually get to the conversation. I didn't get really very many matches at all, maybe 3 or 4 a week. And out of
Hmm.
those, maybe I'd have an interaction by text message with one or two. And if I was lucky, I had one date every 5 or 6 weeks.
Hmm. Right. So this was probably the main bottleneck, right? Is that, yeah, you were
Yes.
getting
Yeah.
some matches, but
Hmm.
still was not leading to any satisfying date. Uh,
Hmm.
you mentioned you had some dates though, but what happened? So except the fact that you said, well, they were not really, let's say, satisfying. I don't know. I don't remember how you said it. Could you maybe tell us more about those rare dates that you had? What happened?
Uh, I think the people that I met were pleasant enough people, but perhaps I didn't know how to find the people that were most compatible with me in terms of the kind of connection I was looking for, rather than I think I focused more on common interests like working out, cycling and things like that, which
Mm.
weren't really quite so important as as I'd put so much emphasis on that, but more not so much on the emotional connection and shared values, and
Right.
the kind of characteristics that someone that you want to look for in somebody. And I think that was quite an important part that you helped me kind of see more clearly and bring to the fore, so I could kind of share that kind of intention on the dating profile, so people could kind of see that I was an intentional guy, that I, was a passionate, caring person, but kind of do it in the right way, so it doesn't immediately put someone off where they think, oh, this guy, maybe is too emotional or too focused on this or that. Just to keep it light and kind of keep it fun, and to make it kind of a more interesting journey.
Nice. I mean, I'm gonna ask you obviously what happened after we met, but just to situate the context, we first talked. It was in February. I think I checked it out right before the call. It was like 25th,
Mhm.
sorry, of February.
Yeah.
So, first of all, what happened after we started working together? The first events. What happened?
Uh, if I remember correctly, you kind of looked at the photos of my dating profile I shared with you, and you kind of made some recommendations, and I think you might have even you did something with one of the photos to kind of emphasize, kind of I think you know kind of made the photo look more appealing somehow without actually changing my appearance too much.
Hmm.
Just a simple kind of small changes that made a huge difference, and all of a sudden I got a lot more interest in my profile just by kind of showing the right photos, showing me in the right way, and also to kind of change the captions that you put under the photos on the dating profiles, which kind of then can get someone's interest. So the main thing that was that you kind of made me see it through different eyes, through the eyes of a woman, how they would interpret things, and that really started to change the direction of how things were going.
Right. And we have to comment, like, I have to ask you, did any of the women tell you when you met them later on, oh, you don't look like your pictures, or you're a catfish, or anything like that?
No, absolutely not. No.
Yeah.
If anything, the opposite is true. Quite often people say, "Oh, you look good in your photos," but actually in person, I'm pleasantly surprised. I thought that maybe you'd be a few years older than your photos suggested or something. So yeah.
Yeah, that's often what can happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
As you also experimented yourself with the women themselves, when the picture they were putting and then how they would look like in real life.
Yeah, I experienced that more than a couple of times, where I had the belief that the women had used photos maybe 10 years prior to the current time, and it was evident the moment we met, particularly because you can tell if someone has aged 10 years, or maybe their body has changed over that time. Maybe they put on a few stone in weight, so things can change, and then obviously then you're meeting someone else that has a different appearance, and so perhaps you wouldn't be attracted to that person in the same way,
Mhm.
had you seen them in their present form. And that's fine. If people want to stay in shape or not, that's their choice. But I think ultimately some people aren't completely honest about who they are now and their appearance. And yeah, sometimes that can be a little bit of a surprise, an unpleasant surprise if you turn
Yeah,
up, because your
I think
expectations are then quite different.
I think everybody can agree with this. I mean, at least
Yeah, yeah.
every honest person can. Okay, so let's fast forward into today. Well, what is your situation today in your dating life?
Well, now I've met a lovely woman who I have a lot of shared personal values and similar characteristics. It was very easy to interact with her. The text messages, just even the language of texting and how to conduct those first messages. it was very much influenced by your input, and it made the whole interaction very easy, very natural. It didn't feel forced. There was some humor, but there was some interest, and I always felt I had given a good enough impression that she would then want to learn more about me, and so she was intrigued to learn more. And also, it kept it fun and interesting. And we went for a first date together. We had a pleasant interaction. We had some brunch together, and had a walk in the park where we, moved a little bit away from the public, so we can kind of have some time just the two of us. And it was nice just to connect a little bit more emotionally and talk about things that are a bit more private. And yeah, we just had a few more dates after that where we got to know each other better before she felt completely safe and comfortable with me, where she felt, she was comfortable enough to come back to my place where I live for dinner.
Mhm.
We had a nice evening together, and from that point onwards, it was clear that we wanted to become exclusive to one another. So it happened, in a very natural way, but everything just seemed to flow naturally. And yeah, it couldn't be more positive, honestly. And
And
I have you to thank for all your help and input to get me to that point where I could show the best of myself. Nothing, we're not trying to make anything up. I'm not trying to pretend to be somebody I'm not. It's completely genuine and sincere. But I think honestly, without having your guidance into how to interact in that first place to show the best side of yourself in the best way, perhaps this meeting wouldn't have taken place and it wouldn't have happened in the same way. So yeah.
well, thank you first of all, and second, congratulating you. I'm congratulating you because you deserve this. Honestly, you've been one of my best clients. You've been executing everything like a champ. You've been doing your task diligently, and you've been persistent also, and we can say it. What would you say, by the way, has been maybe the biggest challenge and maybe the biggest lesson also?
Uh, I think the biggest challenge is accepting that when you're going into internet dating, you have to be prepared to meet a lot of different people. I think it's very unusual to meet the person that you're going to be prepared to become attached to and to form some kind of a commitment
Mhm.
very early on. I think you'd be very fortunate to find that very soon.
Mhm.
I think you have to be prepared to meet a lot of different people and try to take whatever positives you can. I think that one of the biggest challenges is having to accept that you will be rejected, because not everybody's for you, and not everybody's going to see you in the same way. So you have to be prepared that you're going to be rejected a lot of times. And I think the biggest lesson is to not take it personally.
Right.
Sometimes it's not even about you. It might not be you. It might be them. Maybe you're at a different place where you want some kind of long-term commitment and emotional investment, and perhaps they're not at that same stage. Uh, Sometimes there are things beyond your control. Maybe someone has gone onto internet dating, and their ex has come back into their life. So it might have absolutely nothing to do with you why they might not meet you again.
Yep.
Things are out of your control. The only thing you can do is focus on what you can control and present the best side of yourself. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
I
I
think,
totally
yeah,
agree. Okay, go on.
sorry. And I think the biggest lesson is that there's going to be many ups and downs. There's times where you feel, oh, it's not worth it. Why am I doing this? There's a lot of rejection. It's going to make you feel, sometimes where it's going to knock your confidence. And there are other
Mhm.
times you'll feel great, and it might be short lived. So I think the biggest lesson is to not become too attached to the outcome of each date straight away, and to try to take something positive and learn something from each experience and interaction you have.
100%. A lot of guys that I've helped before, they start, and if some of the, I don't like to use that term, but the weakest minded ones, if they just get rejected two, three times in a row, that's over for them. They don't even want to
Mhm.
continue, although that's just part of the process. But hey, maybe not everybody is meant to find love and be happy with this. Some people are just maybe not wired that way to face rejections, and that's part of life. But this is why I also want to congratulate you, because you've been persistent. Especially that we had this bottleneck for a long time where you were able to finally get a lot of dates coming in,
Mhm.
but then those first dates didn't go well, and we struggled for a while to understand what could be the reason for. Uh, yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about it, or if you maybe want to talk maybe about your dating situation right before you met your current girlfriend.
Yeah, so I think, there were quite a few positive first dates. And like you said, there was a bit of a bottleneck there where I wondered why I wasn't getting any second dates. Uh, and I think nowadays as well, because it's probably quite easy for attractive women to get many dates, they can organize dates probably every night of the week if they had the time in their schedule.
Hmm.
Because there's no shortage of men that want to date these women because they're attractive and they're bringing a lot to the table. Um, I think it can be very difficult, but I think the issue I had was that perhaps I wasn't meeting quite the right kind of people,
Hmm.
and maybe that came across in how I was conducting myself on the dates, where maybe then they had some kind of doubts. Maybe it's something I said, maybe it's body language. They pick up on subtle cues. I think maybe they're not even aware it's a subconscious thing. Um, but I think, yeah,
Right.
with my current girlfriend, it became apparent very soon that we had a lot in common. We had a lot of similar values and characteristics. Like we're both kind, caring, affectionate people, for example. We also share the values of being healthy and fit and
Hmm.
active, and that helps as well.
Right.
I think the main thing is that we could both relate to one another more easily because we kind of spoke the same language, if you like, in terms of emotional connection and how important that was.
Right. And could you maybe, I mean, this may be difficult to evaluate, but like how many dates did you have since we started working together before meeting that girlfriend now? If you can evaluate.
Uh, yeah, I mean, certainly over 30. Um, and honestly, I had more dates in the 6 months or so that we worked together than I had in the whole of my other dating life, either side of other relationships I've been in. And honestly, it was a very valuable experience to have so many dates, so many interactions where sometimes you need that repetition to kind of understand yourself better, to understand exactly what you don't want, to know what you do want more clearly. So it kind of helps you to see exactly what you're looking for long term.
Hmm.
But the experience was a good one because it was through that journey I evolved. I also spent more time looking inward at how I interacted, even my appearance, how I dress, my clothes, a sense of style, and just how I used to cut my own hair, and I'd start going to the barber shop to have a haircut so it looked nicer. Just all these kind of small things that you suggested in the past, and it over time, all those things they start to add up, and I think the end result is quite a different one. And I tend to feel like I've evolved. I've come through a journey,
Hmm.
um, and honestly, it's like I feel like a almost a different person now in the way I've approached dating.
Hmm.
And it couldn't be more positive. And I really feel that the woman I'm with now, she kind of we appreciate one another, and I feel that she was very quick to be ready to be exclusive after just 4 dates.
Right.
And I was on the same page, so
Hmm.
we both felt the same about one another. We both agreed that we wouldn't see anyone else. And ever since then, we've talked about the future. And so, it couldn't be better, really. It couldn't be more positive.
I mean, I'm really proud of. I mean, it's weird for me to say proud of you because I'm way younger than you, but you get the feeling here.
Mhm,
It's seeing somebody evolve through that journey because I been to that journey myself. I know how much formative I think we can say in English it is
mhm,
to go through those rejections, to these bottlenecks, these up and downs. I mean, remember when you had some downs, and I told you there's always an up coming after. You
mhm.
just have to
Yeah, yeah.
persist. This is exactly it. And then seeing you happy today, it's really part of the meaning of why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. And this is why I also
Mhm,
want to talk about it today for potential other people that maybe hesitate to do this kind of work.
mhm.
Um, would you, by the way, what would you advise to people that are maybe hesitant, sorry, to start this kind of journey?
Um, I would just encourage people to be positive about the process, but also to be prepared to get uncomfortable. And by that, I mean, you have to look inward at yourself, and you might have to, accept some things about yourself that you can't change, or those things that you should change to make you to have the best of yourself for somebody else, but also to be uncomfortable in the fact that, well, you will get rejected and it won't feel nice. But you have to, in a way, you have to become emotionally detached to an extent in order to not take it personally, because then it will deter you from that journey. And I think the most important lesson is to keep to keep going, even though it feels uncomfortable, because only through that discomfort do we learn. Through our failures, we learn how to become more successful. So if many times I felt like giving up because I had so many rejections, but honestly, with your words of encouragement helped me to have some different perspective and have a positive mindset to continue with that journey, because we'd come so far, and then to stop at the point where we'd still evolved would have been a waste, I think. And
Right.
it's yeah.
And by the way, just for my own curiosity, like, is there anything particular that really encouraged you to continue, or was it more like a general feeling?
Well, it was definitely your words of encouragement and the perspective change that you gave me to say, well, there will be highs, there will be lows. We've come so far, and you kind of helped me understand the whole process from the start to finish.
Hmm.
And so I kind of, because I had that reassurance, I kind of completely trusted in the process and what you were telling me. I think, well, you have to be 100% committed to this, because if I'm hesitant, I'm not committing my time, my efforts, my energy, then there's no way that it can possibly work if I don't give it my 100% focus.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and you've did it, and I'm really happy because when somebody is in a down moment, you're like, well, I know, and I knew, I was for sure certain that you could get it, and I was like, if he really gives up at this point, that's really a huge failure for me. And
Mhm.
you persisted, and in the end, you got it. And to be honest, I mean, even if God forbid anything bad happens with this relationship, I feel that now you have the tools to at least be able to get even better later on, and meet another person if that has to come to it. Again, let's not pray that this happens. But yeah, I feel that it's not just you being able to get a great person, it's also you getting the skills to
Mhm.
get great people around you and ultimately never be single for very long, which is basically the
Yeah,
goal. I think
yeah.
that this
I'm
is
in I'm in complete agreement. Now I have a completely different um, mindset about dating. I definitely feel that you've given me the tools to learn the language of texting, just understanding the process. There is a formula that you teach, and it's a very simple, straightforward formula that starts with that initial, interaction with your dating profile, how someone views your profile, how they perceive you, how you interact by text message, and how the conversation goes, and even how to steer that conversation towards asking for a date, and when to do that and how to do it in the right manner. So all those things are really important, because that actually gets you to the point where you meet people where perhaps before it was so much more difficult. So that was the biggest thing, the hurdle to overcome, is actually just getting on the dates to meet people. And then it goes beyond that, obviously, when you actually have the date, how to interact, to keep it light, to keep it playful, not to have too many serious conversations too early on. Um, because people have that lasting impression of that first interaction with you. So, you
Mhm.
know, it goes from the simple soft skills of texting to actually being there in person, and how you're interacting, and what you're looking, what's the objective of going on that date, and really that the objective of that date should be fun, it should be playful, and it should be memorable for both people, so they had a nice, pleasant time together, enough that they want to do it again.
Right, 100%, obviously. And I mean, at this stage, I don't know if you want to add anything else to everything you've said so far, or we can leave it at that.
Uh, well, I think just to kind of summarize, it's prior to meeting you, I had very limited success with online dating, such that I began to wonder if it was even worthwhile wasting my time and energy.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I had quite a few rejections and not many successful dates. And honestly, I thought, oh, this is a lost cause. There's no point. And it's only when I came across your profile, I think on Instagram,
Mhm.
maybe I sent you a message to respond to one of your posts. and I think that's how we started to talk to each other.
Mhm.
And the whole journey from then, you inspired confidence in me. You gave me some hope, and you said, well, there's some things you can do to make some positive changes, and let's see what difference it makes. And honestly, all those small changes, they added up over time, and it became such a thing that I didn't even have time sometimes to schedule how many dates. It became a problem. It's like, well, I can only schedule 2 dates in a weekend, maybe three if I had a Monday. And honestly, there were some weekends I had 3 dates on each weekend, which I never thought that would ever happen. And it's like, well, I'm clearly doing something right now in order to get those dates. And then it comes down to more the soft skills, how you interact, to get to that second date, which is obviously
Right.
crucial. But yeah, honestly, without your help, I wouldn't have had even 10% of those dates. So it made such a difference.
Well,
It was, yeah,
I'm really glad and I'm really happy for you. And you, again, you deserve it because you've been putting the work. I just want to add something important for people watching because maybe some of them are thinking, oh, but this is only a dating app kind of process. The reason why we focused on the dating apps is because you don't have a lot of time, as you've explained in the beginning. And
that's
so
right. Yeah.
we thought that the best process for you was to focus online. And it was
Mhm.
enough in the end for you to meet enough women. So this is why.
Yeah.
But for
Mhm.
another person, maybe we would do a hybrid approach between online and offline.
Mhm.
Other people just want to do only offline.
Mhm.
But yeah, I figured this was an important comment to make at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, again, congrats on your situation.
Yeah. Thank you so
And
much.
my pleasure. And obviously, we still keep in touch in
Mhm.
case anything happens. And yeah, if no, I'm gonna address the people watching this. If you think that this is a relatable story, or at least you relate to the initial situation that James was in, and you would like to have the similar kind of results, then at least you can just shoot me a message. We can have a first talk. I mean, it's just free, you're not going to pay anything for chatting with me. And then from there on, we can just decide what we want to do. You can just leave it at
Mhm.
that, or you can just, or you can have a call with me, which is also going to be free, and we can decide what can be done for your situation.
Mhm.
Which is exactly the way that you and me, James, we met and how we started working together. But
Mhm.
yeah, I just want to say for people interested, it's not because you have a call with me that you will automatically get into a coaching. I also have to evaluate if we would be a good fit. And for this, I will need a first contact first. But hey, thanks for your time, James. I wish you well for the future. I think it's gonna go very well for the next, at least the upcoming future for you, as from what I've seen so far. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything else. Last word.
Uh, there is one more thing I'd like to add, actually, and that's that despite your initial suggestions that I should consider subscribing to the premium service on two dating apps I was using on Hinge and on Bumble, uh, I never actually felt the need to subscribe to the premium service. I just used the free version on both, and your advice was good enough, that I didn't ever need to get to a premium subscription to get matches and to get dates and to meet people. So I never really felt the need to actually pay for the dating app in order to get a more preferential kind of
Yeah, true.
experience by using the apps. So I
It's
just used the
true.
free version of the app. So there was no extra expense through doing that. So it was never really necessary to do that. I didn't need an unlimited number of likes or messages that I could send to interact with people because just using the free version, your advice was 100% spot on, and it got me where I needed to be. I had more than enough dates to kind of schedule, and the biggest problem then I had was what am I going to wear, and how can I fit these dates into my calendar in my limited time that I had available.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's good comment that you made because that means also, I mean, the follow up is that if you would have paid for it, you would have even more dates and even more opportunities than if you didn't.
Absolutely. Yeah, I believe that to be the
So
case.
yeah, that's a good point to make here. Okay, man. Well, I have nothing else to say. So to the people watching, see you in the next video. If you want to watch my content, or just send me a message. Description is gonna be probably under this video. And to you, James, I say see you next time.
Yeah, thanks. Very much appreciate all your help, and yeah, I highly recommend your services to anyone that would consider, working with you. Yeah, 100% recommend you.
Thank you, James. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye bye.